Well, good evening, everybody. Coming to you live from, I guess, my new setup. And joining me tonight is Bob the goalie. Um, I guess we got to talk about the World Juniors winning. So I got my Team Canada hat on. And unfortunately, the Oilers drop a 3-2 decision to the Colorado Avalanche in overtime on a goal by Cale Makar. What'd you think about, I guess, the World Juniors to start, and then we'll get into tonight's game?
Well, World Juniors, I don't miss. I don't miss them every year. I'm that guy who, way back before PBRs and that sort of stuff, I'm the guy who got up at 3 a.m. to watch them when they were playing over like in Sweden or whatever. Like, I still had to go to school tonight in the morning. Yeah. Uh, didn't you think it was almost a different atmosphere to have it back in its regular time slot around the Christmas thing? I mean, the summer thing. I'm glad we did it just to get it. To get that year's World Juniors done, but the build up to it was kind of lacking just because nobody's really in the mood for it until it got really to that like the semifinals and finals. That's when it really started getting everybody's juice. But didn't it just feel right to have it back in its normal kind of time frame?
Yeah, I think the World Juniors is like, it's the Boxing Day, Boxing Week kind of tradition, right? And I would like the tournament shortened a little bit so you get a kind of a decision shortly around New Year's. But I mean, it was great to watch. Good hockey. There's it becomes exciting because those guys aren't perfect. There's mistakes that lead to transition goals and all that. And sometimes you think you've got a game handled, and then it just goes away on you. Um, but yeah,
That's the beauty of these players, right? They're like you say, they're still developing, and they are kids, and they'll make mistakes. That's one of the things. I like watching the Oil Kings here in Edmonton as well. Even though the Oil Kings aren't that great this year, but the last few years, it seemed like a team was never really out of it. It could be like a 6-2 game and a couple mistakes, and all of a sudden next 6-4. Like there's no quitting these kids, and a game can turn just like that. And you see that even on the World Juniors. Those are the greatest junior players in the world, and you see it happening there as well. But for these kids, these kids are 19, 18, 17 years old with the whole world watching them. Talk about a crash course in dealing with pressure and mass focus.
So we got a comment. Some stranger likes to watch all the time on YouTube. He says, "Is there any hope for this team? Even with Skinner's performance tonight, I had zero confidence that this team would hold a 2-goal lead."
Well, the problem with that is because I can't blame it from having zero confidence because we've kind of shown that, haven't we? About what they say in the broadcast. There's just 3 or 4 now in the last home games that we've given up a 2-goal lead. You hear it all the time too that 2-goal lead is one of the most dangerous leads in sports or in hockey. So I can't blame that. That's part of the game that we're going to have to learn in order for us to get back to the Final Four. We're still going to have to learn to be able to close those games down when we have that lead. So, yeah, confidence. You always got hope, man. I was sure when we had 2-0 lead, like, yeah, let's keep her going. And then was I that surprised Colorado's coming back? No, not really. Number one, because we've been known to give up 2-goal leads. And number two, Colorado's like one of the best teams for coming back from behind.
Yeah, they're a good team, and I think we were fortunate actually to get out of tonight with a point. Our 5-on-5 play wasn't good enough. Special teams, once again, is the reason why we're in the game. I noticed a little something different on the power play tonight. It wasn't always just shovel it over to the right hand side and let Leon spank it home. They were really trying to overload like in the paint. Um, you know, One timers from the slot and kind of grunge work by Hyman there. And that's good to see. They're adding new wrinkles to that power play almost on a daily basis. And yeah, no, I enjoyed what I saw out of that. Um, I don't know. Lots of people are hard on Nurse and CC tonight, and maybe a bit of it's justified, but I think you've got to sort of tip your cap to the Avalanche. I thought that Rodrigue player from Colorado was the most dangerous guy on the ice tonight. Probably next to McDavid for us, but he was dangerous every time he was in the offensive end. I thought for sure he was going to get a goal or two tonight.
Well, he's kind of like their Yamamoto almost, right? Except for maybe a bit more high in skill than Kyler's got. But he's so tenacious. I mean, like you said, he was everywhere, defensively, offensively. The puck was following him. He was battling for pucks. Like, yeah, he was everywhere. I would disagree a little bit. I thought McKinnon was their most dangerous player all night, but Rodriguez was right up there the whole time.
Yeah, I think at one point McKinnon had 10 shots on goal, so he was definitely doing things. Comment from YouTube here. What's the guy's handle? Quaddy says just pissing away leads. So disappointed. Needed to bury them on the second period power plays. I thought the Colorado coach, when we had that brief 5-on-3, he took a timeout, and we just had the power play before that Hyman scored to take the 2-goal lead. He takes that timeout. We got a brief 5-on-3, and it just about backfired on them because we just about got one early on that 5-on-3, and then still would have had another minute 40 or something of power play time if they would have, and pretty soon it could have been a 4-0 game. But I guess that timeout worked, and they killed it off and kind of gave themselves a chance. But he takes that timeout, and I'm like shaking my head. I'm like, you're resting our top unit guys here, and
I wasn't aware Colorado took timeout. I thought Edmonton had taken that time.
no,
Oh, really?
yeah, no, he took a timeout, and he gave our boys the rest.
Yeah, that could have backfired, but also but he gave his guys a rest too. And he has top PKers out there, and that was a kill they needed, because that could have been one of the executioners guillotine there if we score on one there.
Yeah, I mean, the review itself. You're a goalie, so you'll probably have a different opinion. But I saw that, and I'm like, well, he already beat him 5-hole, so why would he try to shove him in the net? And if anybody knew that he already beat him 5-hole, it would have been Hyman. So his stick was definitely on the pad there, but it didn't look to me like he was trying to push him into the net. And
it's one of those weird plays for me, because I was looking at it through my Oiler goggles, looking through my goalie goggles, and as an Oiler fan there, that for sure wasn't a goalie interference. As a goalie, I think if Georgiev watches the replay afterwards, he'll probably go, okay, that probably wasn't goalie interference. But I can definitely understand why he thought it was, because he feels himself getting pushed in, and all of a sudden everybody's celebrating a goal. I'm like, well, obviously they pushed me in with the puck, so
yeah.
But at that time too, I think like Colorado was getting a little desperate there, I think. So as a gamble, I've taken that review, but the reviews have been kind of all over the place this last couple seasons. So it's kind of like a coin flip almost. Like, I wouldn't even have been surprised had they waved it off.
Yeah, maybe we've got like a different outlook on it after the World Junior game too. With those two goals being kind of overturned there for the Americans, you didn't know really what to think when this one went to review.
You never do anymore. I mean, it's almost to the point where I don't celebrate the goals until they drop the puck at center ice again. Like, yeah, that one counts. Nice.
Yeah. What did you think? I know what you're going to say, but I mean, Skinner tonight. I mean, was that his best game of the year, you think, even in a losing effort? But
well, he's so going back to before talking about our special teams. Yeah, so our power play and Stuart Skinner, those are the reasons why we even got a point at all. 5-on-5, like at one point, what were the shots? 27-4, 27-8. They were saying for 5-on-5.
Yeah.
Was it his best game ever? I mean, it's got to be up there, but he's had some dandies. I can. There was a game early on this year we lost 4-3 to Calgary. I thought it was one of the best games I've ever seen Stuart Skinner play. 3-1 against St. Louis when we beat them. He was phenomenal. 3-2 when we beat Calgary in late October, I think it was. Phenomenal. Like, he's had a handful of just elite level games where he's established himself to be your number one goalie. Now, what I'm interested to see is as he plays more and as he's establishing himself, other teams will make adjustments and other teams will have a more in-depth scouting report on him. So now the trick is Stuart Skinner has to keep adjusting to the other teams adjusting to him. And that's where you start establishing yourself as being, I am the man. This isn't fluke. This isn't just a one-hit wonder. Yeah, I can carry this team if need be.
What do you think his best strength is as a goalie?
Well, he knows how to utilize his size. So a couple times he stays back, and he stays in too far, and I think that's just a young goalie because you'll see him correct that in game. So he made a couple of saves today that were good saves. Like even that glove save off McKinnon, he was actually deep in his net. There was another one that hit him in the shoulder where he went down. He was deep in his net. But then later on, like when he came out charging against Rantanen, that was a beautiful save. He was out past the crease. He had another one on McKinnon where he came out past the crease. So you see him always adjusting. So when he plays his size that way and utilizes his size, like he's almost impenetrable, and it's intimidating. I mean, even from watching it on the TV, you see him come out towards the shooter. I'm like, where the heck is this guy supposed to shoot at? So he's very good. Once he recognizes what he's doing, he's very good at utilizing that size that he has in there. He almost makes himself bigger when he goes down as well.
Not that I think it's on him at all, but on the winner on Makar, was he a little deep in his net?
I think what happened here is Makar had his speed coming in. So this is one of those things where you're gauging the speed as a goalie. So you're coming out charging, then you want to back in with the speed of the player. So I think he started back in a bit too early. And so by the time Makar shot it, he's probably little deep in the blue paint a little bit. But that one I think was more. I think McDavid's stick in there kind of screwed up the visual. Maybe he was needing a bit of a deflection, a bit of a knuckler. But that's just one of the things where you're gauging the speed. And you're talking outer world speed when you're talking about Makar or even McDavid or McKinnon, like these guys coming in. For you to judge that pace, that's going to be part of the learning process.
Yeah, I mean it's a great shot, and really honestly, if anybody's at fault on that goal, I'd like to see Connor decide to challenge that, half second or a second earlier than what he did. Yeah, I think he got out there and then he realized, holy shit, that's Makar, and then decided to hit the afterburners, but it was just a little bit too late. And Nurse couldn't fully commit to taking Makar because there was another guy breaking on the right. I can't remember the player that was coming on the other side, but
I don't think that's one where you know what, you can nitpick it down to the details. In the end, it was a good shot done by an elite player for the win.
yeah.
And we almost had it in the bank there. We probably didn't deserve to win that game, to tell you the truth. I know we had some posts there late in the game and in overtime, but overall, if it wasn't for our power plays, we actually got pretty badly outplayed. So I'll take this point for now, and hopefully we can make some changes here so we're not getting bomb blasted like that again.
Yeah. I mean, Colorado's big guys came to play tonight. Their coach wasn't bashful on putting them out on the ice a ton.
No,
and
they utilized them a lot. Like Makar had his league or his season high in ice time. He had 33 minutes of ice time today.
Yeah, and so that goes on, and then game gets tied up, and Woodcroft sort of abandoned his lines that he'd been using most of the game, and pairs up the big boys together, and tries to get the win that way. So some guys got a little less ice time, and people on Twitter are crying about it, but it's the way it goes. It's a game that if you win that, I think that helps their confidence, and Warren Fogle, I guess, second game in a row, he's been sort of a healthy scratch. So there's competition, and it's not a bad thing. I really like the game they played against the Islanders. To me, that was a pretty strong effort. And I didn't mind the effort tonight. It's just, need to execute a little bit better and take a little bit better care of the puck.
Well, it's a lot to ask our number one power play to be even more effective.
Yeah.
If we're not going to play 5-on-5, then we have to vary our power play chances. That's all there is to it. So it's either we find our 5-on-5 game or we bury every power play chance we get, because that's the only thing that kind of, that and Stuart Skinner's the only reason why we have a point today.
Yeah. Yeah. Honestly, yeah. Hyman doing spade work, it helped. Um,
He could have had 4 tonight. My goodness, he was everywhere today tonight as well.
yeah, 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 and it looks like Dylan Holloway's kind of found his game too, which is good. I mean, it's funny. I was listening to like I listen sometimes to Struds and Rashog, their Got Your Back podcast, and they can send me a hat or something for a mention. But Struds talks, and he does it on the Gregor Show too, about how they should send Holloway down, and he talked with Rashog about that on their podcast, and then that night he scores that beauty one timer goal, and it looks like he belongs. So it's kind of funny how that goes sometimes.
So I'm of the belief too that I feel like we should have sent Holloway down earlier on the season, especially when we weren't utilizing him. He was playing like 4 to 6 minutes a night. And like you go down to Bakersfield, I feel like he'd be one of the go-to guys down there. He'd find his confidence, he'd find his legs, his ice time on the pro game, and then call him back up to see. I think it kind of did slow the process down a bit, but I do agree with you that he has started looking really good as of late. Like even like say late November on, he's been flying, he's been trying things. He's been going to hard areas, and he's been throwing his weight a bit more too, which is another element of his game that I don't think he used enough early on.
Yeah. What do you think of the St. Louis acquisition of Klim Kostin? The other night he stayed on McDavid's wing and looked like a gunslinger, just ready to shoot every time Connor would pass him the puck. He started there tonight, and then they kind of shuffled him around a little bit. But what do you think of that guy?
I remember when McDavid was still in junior, they did an interview about him about what his ideal wingers would be like, right? And he mentioned the fact, a guy like Sidney Crosby, and then he said, and then maybe a bigger guy like Milan Lucic. So this was back when he was still in junior. He was saying that. So I think this has always been a part of something that he likes on his line, like a bigger guy that'll make some space, that'll bang for him, and that'll clear some space for him. So I actually think Costin did all right there early on. He's a tough guy. Any player who plays with McDavid is a tough guy to stay up with him, keep up with him, right? You got to find your role on that line or to play with him. So I think just giving him more ice time with him, they'd be able to get a better connection going too. Although I don't think they've looked bad together at all.
Yeah. Did the Avalanche defensemen walk the line better than anybody in the NHL?
Well, I think so. Connor McDavid is the fastest skater in the league. Obviously, I think Cale Makar is the smoothest skater in the league. My goodness, do I love watching him. The way he uses his edges and everything, and he is the king of walking that line, like right on the blue line, right? Like he'll carry the puck to the blue line, almost use that as a marker to see where he's at, and just tightrope walk it and then make a move or then dish it off. Yeah, I agree. Taves as well. Taves another guy who does a good job of that. Not as consistently as Makar does. Not many D-men do, but I think they're picking up on what Cale's doing. But I don't think I can argue with that one.
Yeah, no, like as a unit, I'm watching Gerard, and you can be in their 6 defensemen, and they're still walking the line really well, and they're waiting for traffic to get in front of the net, and then it's Nurse does it too, but those just kind of seeing eye shots from the point that when there's traffic in front create a lot of havoc, and if the goalie does make a save, then it's a bit of a fire drill around them to get control of the puck, and if they do, then they bury it. And that's really what led to them beating us, knocking us out in the playoffs too. Was kind of one of those plays, and then Nichushkin grabs a rebound and buries it, and Mike Smith, freaks out. Yeah, it just they're so good at it. I was watching that tonight, and I'm like, man, it reminded me a little bit of when Stevie Stais used to do it for us, but their whole unit would walk the line and just sift pucks through, and it's hard to defend.
Actually, one of the best Weather D-men I saw do that all the time was Eric Brewer.
Yeah.
Eric Brewer was really good at doing that, and he was very effective in just putting a wrist shot through traffic onto the net. That's one thing I'm trying to do with these kids I'm helping coach, is because all these kids are like 12 years old, so they all want to do the big slap shot sort of thing, and maybe two of the kids can actually raise the puck on the slap shot. And like, just take that wrister through traffic. Like, just be smart about it. The slap shot will come later as you get older.
Well, yeah, and a lot of times in the NHL, there really isn't that much time to get the big boomers off anymore. People defend so much better, or they just get sticks in the way.
Yeah, it's a big thing getting sticks or getting bodies in that lane. It seems like most of the time it's usually a loose puck that comes trickling out, or a big rebound where a guy's able to step up and just let one go.
Kawadi from YouTube here says, hate to criticize a guy who scored 2 goals, but God, Hyman should have had 5.
I know. That goes along the same line as criticizing a power play for not scoring all our opportunities. It's tough to ask more from Hyman than scoring 2 goals in a game, but yeah, he could have had 4 or 5 tonight. He was everywhere today.
Yeah, I mean, there was that.
Credit to him though for having those chances, to being available for those chances. But yeah, I mean, you'd love to see another one go in for him for sure.
There was kind of that scramble play when Gordiev was sort of down and out of the picture, and neither McDavid or Hyman could get a piece of the puck at all to just tap it in the little bit of empty net that was there. And credit to the one guy from Colorado who got just a little piece of it to knock it away from Hyman.
That's the game of inches. Crazy. And then overtime where he hits the crossbar and then bats one out of the air, right back into Georgiev. Like, oof.
Yeah, that's bad luck. He, post goalie's best friend, and then what happens? They go the other way and score.
Yeah, man, that's the way she goes. So, hey, we got a point. We had a point on night. We probably didn't deserve one.
Other thing I was gonna say is, there's a guy on the team that's sort of been flying under the radar a little bit just because of the outstanding season that Connor's having and Leon as well, and that's Nuge. And it's a shame that the All-Star game, the 3-on-3 for a couple of years, it was okay. I wish they'd go back to 5-on-5, because there's some guys that are not going to be going that deserve to go, and I'm sort of tired of the skills competition there. And not that the All-Star game was ever really great. I was thinking about it before, and probably my most memorable memory of any NHL All-Star game is Owen Nolan pointing top corner and then actually going there on Hasek. But I'd like it to go back to 5-on-5. Just play one game, even though it's kind of a carnival act. Just do that, do the skills, and come home.
Well, I don't know how you make the All-Star game more competitive or anything like that, because it is just, guys playing shitty for the most part.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm old enough to remember Wales versus Campbell Conference All-Star game with those slick, glimmering, shimmering jerseys and whatnot, right? And they'd be close games, but they'd still be like 12-8, right? That sort of stuff. It's always been like a high scoring thing for the most part in the modern era. But no, I hear you. Like, you're never not going to have Draisaitl and McDavid not in the All-Star game or get chosen as All-Stars. And that does leave guys like Nuge out of the loop, who's having a great year. I got to say, I figured I had Nuge down for about a high 60 points this year, because I figured he'd get a lot more on the power play sort of thing. But I thought his goal total, they've been going down steady for the last 3 years. So I'm like, if he gets double-digit goals, I'm happy. Jeez, he is just killing it out there right now.
Yeah, no, he's having a great season. And as of right now, Leon Draisaitl isn't in the All-Star game. He needs to be voted in. And
I know.
And he's the second, he's the second leading scorer in the NHL. So that's...
Well, that's the whole thing about every team needs representation, right? So you're going to get some guy out there who's got 30 points who's going to be in the All-Star game, what have you. So it's going to get worse with expansion. Pretty soon we'll have only one player from each team.
Thoughts on? We'll go back to World Juniors. Thoughts on Bedard?
Oh my goodness! Like honestly, he's that guy that does the thing that McDavid's doing in the NHL, but Bedard's doing it in the juniors. Is like whenever he touches the puck, you're anticipating something. I don't like the comparisons, Bedard to McDavid. I mean, that's two different leagues and two different talents. Bedard's playing against 18, 19-year-olds, and not against 30-year-olds, right, sort of thing. And so there's a big difference. But holy smokes, was he ever a joy to watch? He hands down has to go down as one of the greatest, if not the greatest, Team Canadian World Junior player there ever was. It wasn't just the fact that he was dominant in against teams that were weak, but he's doing that overtime goal in the semifinals. Like, I believe that's one of the best goals I've ever seen in World Junior, especially if you consider the amount of pressure, the situation in general. Like, insane.
Yeah, no, he was kind of a treat to watch. Like, almost every shift. I guess in that sense, it is like McDavid. You're on the edge of your seat. What's he gonna do next, right?
Yeah. Well, it's what Ovechkin was when he came in. It's like what Crosby was when they came in. Like these are guys when they first came in, and you first started noticing them as whenever they touched the puck, you were anticipating something. And that was me watching Bedard in the World Juniors. Every time he was on the ice, you noticed him, and you were anticipating something.
Yeah, just a treat to watch. I'm glad they, redeemed themselves, and the talk isn't about how many Michigan tries in the first game, and how that was the TSN turning point for the whole tournament, and all that.
I gotta say that's it's not bad to have one of those games, especially if it's a round robin, because it does give you a wake up call, right? It does give you that thing like, oh, maybe we're not just king shits, and maybe we're gonna have to work for it. And like after that game, they played way better as a unit, that's for sure. So that was a bit of a wake up call for the individual efforts.
And I don't know. Personally, I have nothing against what I think it's a legitimate way to try to score. I think it's no different than trying to wrap around goal. I've got no issues with the Michigan or whatever, and the game evolves, and to me, people were saying, well, I don't think they should be allowed to do that, and all this. To me, it was like when that kind of talk is like when the NBA wanted to outlaw dunking because and it's just silly. It's just whatever.
It's a skill.
Yeah.
Why are you taking away the skill? So yeah, like I think it's different if it's a 7-1 game and you're trying it, then that's kind of a more hot dog move.
Yeah.
But like the thing is, if it's a 4-3 game and they're not anticipating it, and you have that era, the ability to do that. Yeah, why don't you?
It's a legitimate way to try to score a goal. I've got no issue with it whatsoever. And honestly, if you take that much offense to it and you're on the ice, you can stick the guy. You can you can do all the things you normally do. So, yeah, to me it was just.
I'm kind of lucky that I was I'm not playing, like my goalie days are over, but when I was playing, it wasn't as prevalent at the time, the Michigan. Like you would have guys try and do the lacrosse goals in practice, but I've only ever had one guy attempt it to me in a game. So now almost everybody can try it or has tried it, right?
Yeah. Last year we had Rob Shrimp on, so he could probably have a few pointers on the Michigan, but that is not something my hands will allow me to do.
That was a good episode. I like the Robbie Shrimp episode. That was a good one.
Yeah, I have a hard time just picking up the puck and flipping it to a ref, let alone trying to scoop it up and score a goal. most of my goals came from about 3 feet in front of the net, but
look at you, Dave Andrewchuk.
Ryan Smith, yeah. Except I play with a stick that has a curve on it, so I got a good backhand. But
there you go.
Yeah. Oh man. So we're about a half an hour in. We'll probably go for another 15 minutes or so. Thanks everybody for watching, wherever you're watching. Most people, I think now we've kind of learned that most people watch on YouTube, which is good.
Cool.
kind of a little bit of a start of a new setup in podcast room in the basement. I finally got a bedroom instead of our sump pump room. So Grant Fuhr's on my one shoulder, and above my head is kind of a Oilers signed stick, and I believe Colby Cave's name's actually on that, so it's kind of special to me. And some jerseys, and I'm gonna add some stuff to it, but this is kind of where I've started. And
Look at you getting up to the big time, eh?
yeah, my beautiful fiance bought me a 4K camera for
Whoa!
yeah, for Christmas. So we've kind of upgraded. So now I need to look a little bit better, and I probably should shave. But
It better not become a fashion show, Dursa.
oh, it's gonna be a fashionable hockey show.
So, what'd you think of Campbell's last game?
I think he's starting to find it, and starting to feel it, and that's good news if you're a Oiler fan.
I'll be honest. We need Campbell to find his game. Like there's this, we are putting a lot on Stuart Skinner right now, and he is, virtually an unproven goalie. Like this is his year to make his mark, and he is doing it. But like I said, we're at the halfway point now. He's making a name for himself, so teams are going to adjust to him. They have their more in-depth scouting reports on him. So let's see how he adjusts as well. But we do need Jack Campbell to find his game. If he's not going to be our starter, we still need him to be extremely dependable every 3 or 4 games to come in and be able to help carry his load. In all honesty, when Jack Campbell is on his game, he has the potential to be a top 10 goalie. He hasn't done anything remotely close to that here in Edmonton so far. He's had his moments, maybe 2 or 3 games where he's been like elite level Jack Campbell, but he was doing it in Toronto there until he got hurt. So it is in him. So if we had that Jack Campbell here and the way that the Stuart Skinner is playing, then there'd be no question marks about goaltending whatsoever.
I don't know if this is a goalie question or a philosophical question, but can you hold on to your starter's job with a game like Skinner had tonight in a loss, or at the end of the day, is it just wins and losses that are going to keep you in that driver's seat?
It's performance. Obviously, it's a professional sports is all about results, right? So, but who gives you the best chance to get those results? And really, Jack Campbell is obviously capable of having a game like Stuart Skinner has. I mean, he has done it before, but Stuart Skinner has been doing that more often than not for us this season. And over 60% of our games this year, we are getting outshot and outchanced. And so we need that kind of goaltending. And Stuart Skinner has provided us that kind of goaltending. And we don't get that point today without him in net.
Yeah. I think Campbell's turning the corner. But what do you need? Like 2 or 3 more games like he had against New York to kind of stake your claim and make it more of a competition for the net?
Yeah, and you want that competition because it makes you better, makes both goalies better. So I actually thought the New York Islander game was a tough one for Campbell because he didn't get a lot of action. He got like 22 shots. That's not a lot of action. And it's tough to feel the rhythm of the game. So he had to come up with some big saves in those 22 shots. That's one of the reasons why I always had so much respect for Martin Brodeur, is because he played on a defensive-minded Jersey team, and he get 20 shots a game. And you got people saying, well, shoot, I'd get 300 wins if I got 20 shots a game. Yeah, 20 shots a game, and 3 or 4 of those were 10-bell saves. Like, how do you stay focused and in that groove to make those saves when you need to? It's actually easier to play when you get 50 shots than it is when you get 20 shots because you're in that zone.
Yeah.
I thought it was a difficult game for Campbell to be in, and I actually thought he handled it really well because he did come out with some big saves when it was needed.
Your reflexes aren't allowed to go to sleep when you're facing 60 shots.
You got to stay focused. But like there'll be games where if I got 20 shots or less, I'm counting. I'm looking for babes in the stands, like this sort of thing. Like I'm just like didn't have that kind of focus. I'm that guy who needed over 30 shots a game for me to feel in that zone, be a part of it, have that rhythm.
So let's rip the ref for a second.
Oh, here we go.
Hyman gets hauled down and then takes an embellishment call. So it takes away an Oilers power play and leads to Avalanche scoring on the 4-on-4. And then shortly after that, Draisaitl takes a penalty and reminded me of like the Kessler Bieksa Burrows Canucks with the dive from the Avs player, and only Leon goes to the box. That that kind of burned my stack. But what do you think there?
Well, I think it's all by optics at that point. So, yeah, when the Hyman goes down, it's in a clutch situation. They kind of both go down, and it doesn't look as violent as a headshot that Leon throws. So it's more optics. Yeah, the guy got hit in the head, but he did go down like pretty easy. I thought the same thing at the time. I was trying not to see it through my Oiler goggles, going, well, obviously he embellished as well, and he did. But at that point, I think we're going on optics on it.
Did you think it was an elbow or just a bit of a glove to the chin?
I thought it was a forearm shiver, if anything. Okay. I don't think it was an elbow. Yeah, I think he did kind of catch him with this part as he was like flinging it across. So
forearm shiv, elbow still does damage either way.
Yeah, it wasn't a vicious shot, but it was a penalty for sure. But the way that guy dropped down, like he just got shot from the upper blues, is kind of like, okay, that's look dramatic. He didn't swing that hard at you. Yeesh.
I almost wonder, like, because the after we had that power play, the 5-on-3, or maybe it was the second penalty that became the 5-on-3. One of those calls around there was pretty soft in our favor.
Yeah, I remember that too. But which one was that one? Yeah. It was kind of soft.
I can't remember if it was the second part of the 5-on-3 or it was a power play after that. I'm not sure, but it was kind of a chintzy call against Colorado.
Yeah, I don't remember which one it was, but I remember thinking.
It felt to me like the scales of NHL officiating justice were going to go in their favor. They always try to even it up a little bit, and I think.
Well, we are losing decision makers for officials. Like, there's no doubt about it. I mean, this game itself, I'm not going to complain too much about officials, but just in the last 3 to 4 years, 5 years, the quality of officiating has gone downhill quite a bit. And I think it's more to do with, because they're getting athletes to be officials now, because the game is so fast. Yeah. They got to be able to keep up with it. And now we're losing the game managers, the decision makers, and the wisdom of some of the older you get as an official, the wiser you get with your call selection and your game management. But those guys can't keep up to the game as much. So now we got impulse decision makers, impulse callers, and there's getting a lot of chintzy and crappy stuff that they're missing and calling.
Yeah, you're speaking Brett Luchansky, Surveyor Brett's language for sure. But you're right. I mean, they're recruiting guys out of the WHL and CHL to be refs now instead of kind of career officials. They're getting guys that aren't going to make the NHL as a player to put on the zebra jersey and officiate because they can skate, and that's really.
And I can understand that, because you got to be able to keep up with the game, but yeah, we're losing some of that wisdom that you build up from fishing for a long time. And I understand though too that the game is as fast as it's ever been, and so things happen so fast. So there's things you're gonna miss or things that you're gonna see that you probably didn't happen or what have you. But I still think it's still a lost art that has decreased the quality of officiating in the NHL.
I didn't think we were going to go here, but if you had a choice to ref you in the Game 7 Stanley Cup final, any official in NHL history, who would you want?
Well, so I actually was a fairly big Andy Van Hellemond fan way back in the day. Yeah, he had a couple of chintzy games, but just like any player, like that's a human factor. So the refs will have bad games as players have bad games. But I thought overall Andy Van Helmen was always a very fair official. He always seemed to be very methodical in some of the decisions he was making. He never seemed like it was very impulsive for the most part. And I'm not saying it didn't happen, but I was always a decent Van Helmen fan. Fraser wasn't bad. Koharski got better as he got older. Actually, he was one of those guys. I thought early on he was actually pretty shitty, and then the older he got, he was a good game manager.
I would have to say, for me, I think the best ref that I know is Bill McCreary.
Yeah, he's a good ref. Yeah.
I liked Bill McCreary. I thought he was fair and just a good ref. What is it? Wes McCauley to me is a Hollywood actor. that guy overacts everything. Like the 5 for fighting. Like people like that, but to me, it's just you're overselling. You're a ref.
Well, here's the thing. I don't care how you call it, as long as it's a fair call. If you want to do backflips while you make the call, I don't care either. I used to get this chat about when people are chatting for goalies. What do you think about the guys making the big windmill save, right, sort of thing? Like I'm like selling it. I don't care. As long as you stop the puck, I don't care. If you get burned doing that, like when the year that Waugh did it, when he had it in his glove, he threw his hand up and dropped it. Yeah. And then that's like, okay, well, there you go. You deserve it. But if you're keeping the puck up, just keep the puck out. I don't care how you do it.
Yeah, good old Patrick Waugh.
Patrick Waugh, who I was not a Patrick Waugh fan in the day. I've gained more respect for him since he retired because his record does. You can't ignore the record. You can't ignore the situation he was in and the stuff he's won. But I always thought that Patrick Waugh was kind of the president of his own fan club. There was nobody loved Patrick Waugh more than Patrick Waugh did.
I didn't like him, but what they did to him in Montreal made me feel bad for the guy. Why didn't you pull him? Wow.
It made me feel bad for the guy. Probably 6 or 7 years later. At the time, I loved it because I didn't like Patrick Waugh. Then leave him in there with the whole shebang. I don't care. But when you look at it, that was a pretty dickhead move by Tremblay for sure.
Yep. Yeah. Oh man. Have you had like a real battle with a coach ever?
I've been lucky. I've had good coaches. I've had coaches that were hard on me, but I actually responded better to them. I never liked being sugar coated kind of thing. Like if I'm playing like shit and the coach comes up to me and says, "Hey, nice try, Bob. You'll get him next time." No, don't give me that. I play like shit. Tell me I play like shit, and we can move on. Don't be sugarcoating it.
Right.
And so I always respected the guys more that were in my face about it, because I felt challenged, because I felt like they expected that from me. So they were disappointed. So they were upset at that, and they were never like blatantly rude about it or nothing like that, and calling me down. But they wouldn't sugarcoat it. Right? They were like, okay, you know what, Bob? Like that's a shitty period. We're gonna put what's his face in for the next one. Like, yeah, it was a shitty period. It's probably the right move. I don't want to come out, but yeah. Right. So I've had a good relationship with coaches. I think once they knew that I was more of a black and white kind of guy, not no gray area, and I think for the most part that they appreciate that tactic as well, because they don't have to try and do the mind games like, oh, how do we talk to our goalie, because goalies can be fragile and crazy and all that crap, and whatever. Just tell me like it is and we'll move on.
So Oilers head out on California swing games against Kings, Ducks, and Sharks. What do you think they end up doing on that trip? Can they win?
So now we're looking at a stretch where these games are the games that if we want to show that we are a team to be reckoned with, these are teams that we should be beating. Kings are probably more in the middle of the pack, but like Sharks and Ducks, these are teams we should be cleaning up with. I think we play the Kraken after that, and they're kind of middle of the pack as well. But then again, we face weaker teams after that. So we're coming up to a stretch right now where we should be gaining points on our opposition, because these are teams that we should be beating. We have to beat for us to just assert ourselves.
It's interesting because they go into Seattle and they absolutely take the crack into the woodshed, and they come home. Well, I guess they dropped the New Year's Eve game to the Jets, right? And then they play Seattle again, and it looks like they're going to take them to the woodshed again. And I'm watching this game and I'm thinking, how is Seattle doing like have this record that they have this season? They're not a good team. But then the Oilers got lulled to sleep in that game, and Seattle walks away with a win.
I think Seattle implements the rope-a-dope
Yeah,
along,
yeah,
but Seattle doesn't have they don't have great players, but they don't have weak players. That's the thing. They got depth, pretty good depth. They don't have a really go-to guy. Who's their best player? Who's their best forward? Burakovsky, maybe.
yeah, or Eberle, but it doesn't seem like Eberle really does a lot anymore. He's kind of in areas and stuff, but yeah, I don't know.
But having said that, like
But they have a
Martin
solid they have a solid defense, so
and then
they
Martin
stay in
Jones
games.
came in, established himself as well. Like he's found his game. He's been solid for them back there. But that's a team that I think a lot of teams are underestimating, which is why Seattle has been had a pretty good year so far.
Yeah, and I still can't figure out the Golden Knights. I didn't think they would stay in the hunt as long as they have. They're getting better goaltending than I would have guessed at the start of the season for sure.
Well, actually, I was a pretty big booster on Logan Thompson beforehand. I was pretty excited to see him start the season as a number one guy because the couple flashes in the pans he had last year, just his style, I thought fit today's NHL, and so I've been pleasantly surprised by how well he's playing because I was excited to watch him play, and now just like that he's left Leonard and Brossoit. That they've left them pretty expendable.
Yeah, yeah. I was not expecting them to keep on keeping on like they have. I wasn't expecting them to even start good, but they're doing all right. We seem to match up good against them, though. I don't know. It's like we're playing games against the wrong teams, or we just like this Oiler team is a weird one to try to figure out. They're definitely an anomaly. Like they can compete against the best teams in the league, and then against kind of the lower echelon teams, they seem to really struggle with. Like it's so hard to figure them out.
Yes and no. So I actually looked into that a little bit. I had it queued up here because I wonder if we were going to touch on that. So I did a thing. This is actually on the first 31 games. So I'm about 10 games behind now. But I did see how the Oilers were doing against the top 10 teams of the league, the teams that are in the middle of the pack, and then kind of the weaker teams. And I went straight wins lost. That didn't count like overtime win or loss counted as a win or a loss. Shootout would count as a win or loss. None of this 2-3-2 record, right? Sort of things. So straight winning percentage alone. So actually, I also was one of the people that thought that we tend to play to our level and or to our competition's level. So when we play against Anaheim, we play like Anaheim and we suck. And Anaheim's better at playing Anaheim hockey than the Oilers are playing Anaheim hockey, right? And so on. And then we play like whatever the Devils or something like that, like a stronger team, and then we kind of play to that level, and we have the talent where we can beat teams like that. So looking at that, though, I was actually surprised by the numbers because against the bottom-feeding teams, kind of thing, they're non-playoff teams, we're at 57%. So we are beating them more often than not. We're actually strongest against middle-of-the-pack teams. We're at 64% on winning percentage. We're actually weakest against the top 10 teams. We're at 33% winning percentage against the top 10 teams. That's after the 31-game mark. But the problem is, because we expect more when we play against Anaheim, we should be beating these teams. So when we do lose those ones, those really stand out to us. Like, oh, we're always losing to the Ducks, or we're always losing to, whoever that's down there.
Neil Garrity on YouTube says, "I see you went with your fourth favorite guest host." Brad Hunt scored the tying goal, in that 4-on-4 situation. But I gotta say it shouldn't count because his visor was way up here. I, I just laugh at guys that have a visor, but it's like way up high. Like it just looks so goofy. I'm like, what are you even doing wearing that? Usually your visor is there to protect your eyes or whatever, and it's just way up in the air. It just looks silly.
He has a fragile forehead, so he has to protect the forehead. Yeah. So Brad Hunt, I remember him as an Oiler way back in the day. That's who he started his career with was Edmonton.
Yeah.
Never was able to find consistency, but even afterwards, especially when he went to Minnesota for a bit, like he actually for a longest time was just a power play specialist. He would sit on the bench and just come on for the power play because he has a booming shot.
Yeah.
He's a decent skater, but his defensive game leaves a lot to be desired. But Minnesota, for a whole year there at least, maybe a year and a bit, they played with 7 D-men all the time, and Hunt could be their 7th D-man and just jump on to play the power play.
We got to restart the show for Neil here. He says that shouldn't have been 4-on-4, and we already bitched about the embellishment call to Hyman and the subsequent non-embellishment call to the Avalanche guy that went down like he was shot when Draisaitl kind of hit him a little bit.
Yeah, you either call both embellishments or you don't call either embellishment at that point.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at too. I don't know about the Hyman one. I need to look at that again. I think he just got tackled and that was that. But
I think what pissed the ref off maybe was as soon as Hyman went down, he looked straight to the ref, right? So then the ref kind of go, okay, you're milking this to get the penalty. So I grabbed both of you.
Yeah. That's kind of a natural. That's a natural reaction from everybody, though. You get tripped, you get hooked, you get tackled, whatever. You're looking at the ref like, are you going to call that? That's natural. I don't think you're showing up the ref by looking at him to see if he's going to make a call.
No, I don't think so either. You're just curious to see what happens. But the fact that it happened right in front of the ref and Hyman basically looked at him like, yeah. Like I said, you either call both or you call neither. Like,
yeah.
If Hyman was diving, then so was the Av dude that Draisaitl forearm shivered a bit.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. Oh man. So we're tiptoeing on an hour. We'll go for another 5 minutes here, I guess. Shut her down just before an hour. What's the latest with your coaching career and all that fun stuff that you do on the side?
Just helping out some 12-year-olds. We haven't done much over the Christmas break there. Number one, I was on call over the whole Christmas break, and a lot of these guys' practices are like at 4:30 or 5 o'clock, and I'm still working at that point, so that's a tough one to get to. But I know we had a game this weekend, but I'm on call this weekend, so I was at work this weekend, so I actually haven't been with the boys for probably almost a month already. So I doubt they realize I'm still on the coaching staff. So I'll try and get back in there. I think we have practice on Tuesday or Wednesday this week, so I'll try and get back on there. But the goalie I was working with was making a lot of progress because he wants to. Like he soaks in everything, and it's one of the weirdest relationships I've ever had with a goalie because I will tell him something and he won't respond. Won't respond at all. In fact, he'll give you a blank look as if you're speaking Chinese to him or something, right? And I'll even say like, "You got this?" He won't say anything, and then I'll skate away, and during the drill he'll do exactly what I just told him to do. So it's like, okay, he's listening. He's just not a guy who responds. I've never had that before. Like, he just doesn't say a thing, but then he does exactly what you want him to do. So, but I like the fact that he's a hard worker and he wants to be better. So he'll basically do anything I ask him to do. So good on him.
That reminds me of when I was coaching Adams. I had a goalie that was like a mute, like he would never even speak, and he was just so timid, but could play the position.
Well, and that's the weird thing is, so like I got a good relationship with his parents because his parents are overjoyed that I'm working with this kid. So I told them about this, and they were so surprised because apparently this kid is like a chatterbox. He chats nonstop at home. He chats in the dressing room here with his team. He chats at school the whole time. The only person he doesn't chat to is me. but he does it all. So I'm like, if that works for you, I'm okay with that. Just keep doing what you're doing, because he's gotten a lot better since the beginning of the year, and I'm proud of the guy for sure.
So it's maybe something we should have talked about earlier, but I think we'll just use this as our last kind of thing. Nurse has had a tough year this year, to say the least, but I've seen a turn in his game the last 3 games or so. What do you think?
Okay, Nurse having a tough year. That's, for me, it's more like Nurse had a tough stretch. I actually thought for the most part he's been our best D-man most of the year. The tide kind of turned, I'd say, mid-December, and then he went into a really, really bad stretch, and like awful stretch. Some of the worst hockey I've ever seen Nurse play. And I don't know why or what happened, but he was making bad decisions. He was making bad reads and just like doing stuff I haven't seen Nurse do since probably he was a rookie kind of thing. And I think the problem is he's supposed to be our number 1 D-man. We're paying him top 10 D-man money, which is an overpayment, obviously. So we're expecting this from him. So when he makes a mistake, and we see his mistakes more because he plays 26 minutes a night, right? So we'll see his mistakes more often than we'll see Nima Lina make a mistake, right? And then we're disappointed. It tends to overshadow other good stuff he's done. So this stretch, and there was a stretch of about three out of the 4 games in a row there at one point were some of the most worst games. He was our worst defenseman out there, and that overshadowed everything he did working up to it. And like I said, I thought all the way up to December he was still our best D-man that we had. And all of a sudden he just tanked it. And I agree with you though that he has picked it up, especially after the Christmas break.
This might be an indictment on the defense in general, but I think Tyson Barrie actually has been our most consistent defender. Tyson Barrie
was picking up the slack that Darnell Nurse was laying down there, especially in his cold stretch there. Tyson Barrie's been, I think he's having a really good year. I wouldn't say he's been our best defenseman. I still see Nurse as our number 1, but Barrie has proven to be extremely valuable to us. And like same as Bouchard though. Bouchard's been struggling a lot too lately. And it's kind of him and Nurse kind of go hand in hand there for a bit. But we're almost willing to put up with that a bit more because he's still so young. He's still developing. I mean, yeah, we'll get on him about it, but in the end, we're like, okay, he's still establishing himself as a regular D-man. Whereas Nurse, we have these expectations of, hey, top 10 money, play top 10, play like you're a top 10 D-man.
I think part of what happens too is tonight, I mean, McKinnon attacked Ceci and then split, the two of him and Nurse. And Nurse just about caught McKinnon and made it harder for him. But he really attacked Ceci, but all everybody sees is that Nurse got beat.
Well, because we have eyes for that, right? Because we have these expectations of him. So we're almost looking for him to make these mistakes, right? And so we have something to bitch about. You know what? Yeah, Nurse and Ceci both got beaten that one. But in the end, that's one of those things where I think you tip the hat to McKinnon because that was
right.
Thing.
I mean, like he had that world-class speed and a world-class play.
Yeah. So are we, is that what's happening with David whenever he goes to a defenseman? Like, oh, those are shitty defensemen, terrible mistakes. I freaking he's Connor McDavid. Like, geez, he's going to make you look foolish from time to time. Yep. That's all there's to it.
Yep.
So he's done it to Makar before. And we all praise Makar for how he plays against McDavid, but he has made Makar look stupid a couple times before. So it's going to happen. Another guy that's been disappointing to me, actually, now we're talking about D, was I think Kulak's had an off year. I don't think he's been carried over the momentum that he had when we picked him up last year. He was a pleasant surprise for us last year, and he has really found that game consistently.
What the hell was with him at the start of the season? He couldn't stay on his feet. Like it was like it was like every night, like he needed to get his skate sharpened again. Like it, wild.
I remember. I came out as a guest for you that one in the first month, and he'd fallen out like 4 times unexplainably already in the first month of the season.
Yeah, at least he's got that figured. We've just lapped an hour. Any final thoughts there, Mr. Bob?
any final thoughts I have are probably nonsense. So and they probably just belong in my head. Too many pucks to the head, so they probably come out as gibberish anyways. But as always, I think this West Coast swing is going to be a big one for us because we are playing teams that we should be beating. So it's going to be it's our time to send a message, right? If we want to start putting win streaks together, let's do it now. Let's do it now because these are teams that we should be putting a win streaks together on.
Yeah, get on a bit of a roll here and string some
We're
wins,
overdue.
string some
We're
wins
overdue.
together. I kind of have this feeling that we're gonna see Evander Kane in the next couple of weeks, like he's ahead of the February or mid-February timeline that was originally given to us, but they need to gain some traction before he gets back, and it's going to take him a little bit to kind of get back up to speed, I think, anyway. So don't.
I'm looking at our schedule that's happened. Like we've only had 2 3-game win streaks all season. One of them was a 5-game win streak, which was great. That was in October. But our last 3-game win streak was November 26th to November 30th. There we had a 3-game win streak. So it's time we put a couple of those things together.
Yeah, they're due. Thanks for joining me, Bob, and I'll get you back again soon. I gave you all of about 3 minutes notice to do this tonight, so appreciate you coming on. Dash should be back in the saddle soon, but he had a sick little man, so he had to take care of some family business tonight. It was fun to get back.
The benefits of not having a life is I'm always available to you there, so I always appreciate coming on.
Well, I'm glad you don't have a life, so you can come and talk some hockey. Thanks again, and keep your sticks on the ice. Thanks everybody for watching. If you haven't yet, subscribe to the Heavy Hockey Network. Get articles on heavyhockey.com. They're always cranking out lots of articles. Ryan Lotzberg, Eric Friesen, Dash has been known to write an article or two. Myself, Oilers Live, Kirk Morris. Also, World Hockey Report is part of Heavy Hockey Network. So those guys, you know, if you're a betting man and you bet on sports, there's a dude from Philadelphia that seems to know what he's talking about when he's picking people to choose to win games. So follow along there. And Cody has his show that's a lot of fun and some interesting guests. If you go back a couple of weeks, you can listen to a guy from kind of those extreme ice war kind of stuff there. It was a neat little episode, and Cody always has somebody cool to talk to. So check that out. Thanks again, Bobby, for coming on. Keep your sticks on the ice. Keep reaching for the stars. And hopefully the Oilers can find a way to win some games in Cali. Good night, everybody.